Alrighty, here's my redo of my Qajar, Napoleonic era Qajar Persian Army. Um, this time, instead of doing infantry, cavalry, and artillery separately, in different segments, I decided to go ahead and shoot the entire kit and caboodle here. So, without further ado, kind of give you a quick shot of the entire army. I've got a 4 foot by 8 foot game table. It stretches across a good part of the game table. Basically, I started building the Qajar Persians just as something kind of an oddity, kind of a small group of interest that I could go ahead and utilize for Napoleonic gaming. My gaming group, we all play volley and bayonet rules, which is a set of rules for the 1990s. Napoleonic basically covers the entire horse and musket period, like 1700 and 1900. And we go ahead and it's grand tactical gaming. Each single casting stand of cavalry represents a 500-man detachment or regiment, and each large block of infantry represents a brigade-sized formation of anywhere from 1,500 to 3,500 men. So a single stand artillery stand represents anything from a battery to a large battalion of guns. It could be the same or varying calibers. And in volley bayonet rules, you're basically dealing with, we generally do core or multiple core on core actions. So you get kind of a grand sweep, of the events, not a skirmish rule set. And so all of my Persians are based for that. Now the Qajar Persian Army is interesting. Developed basically, it's the Qajar Dynasty is they're actually not of Persian origin. They are of Turkic origin, Turkic-speaking tribe, the Qajars, and they came to power in the late 18th century. At the time of my army's build, the Shah, the Qajar Shah, is Fath Ali Shah, is the current ruler of Persia at that time, and the Persians were going through. They had gone through a series of conflicts with the Ottomans. They had also had wars and fighting with the Russians, and the Russians had expansionist ideas into Azerbaijan region and the northern part of like the Persian domains, which were broken, and those were under Persian influence, not exactly under direct control of the Qajar government, but they were like the Kivan Khanate, Baku Khanate, and these various other small principalities and khanates that were in the northern regions of the Caucasus and basically the Georgia, that area was basically under, I guess, growing influence from Russia. Persia was also trying to go ahead and extend their influence in that area, and so it's a lot of room for conflict. I thought that'd be interesting. I've got a large volley bayonet-based Russian Napoleonic army. And thought, why not? Give us another theater of war to fight Napoleonic era conflict in. As it turns out, it's pretty neat. Once I started building them, I couldn't stop. So that happens to me a lot when I'm building armies, and I just build and build and build and paint and build, and before you know it, well, I've got this. And so, kind of wanted to give you a rundown of it. I'm certainly not an expert in I guess a military history sort of thing, but I've read up on it. I study it, and I study when I'm painting armies, and I do a lot of research. And I want to make sure I get the uniforms right. I want to get I want the names of the leaders accurate, and for volley bayonet rules, we basically what I do is I go ahead and I have labeled every single unit, so it's not just a unit of provincial infantry or a unit of tribal levies. You can look at the back of the base. It will tell you exactly who they are and what unit they're from and and who the leader is, that sort of thing. And that makes for ease of gameplay, for organization when you're setting up battles. when you're keeping track of casualties, when you're looking at their strength point, their morale, all that, you can just take a quick look, see which unit it is, look down your reference sheet, and you've got it. So anyway, that's kind of how that works. And I guess at this point, I could go ahead and start showing the actual army itself. Okay, well, we're going to start out as far as my Persian army, my Qajar Persian army. It's made up of huge numbers of highly motivated irregular cavalry, tribal cavalry, just enormous numbers, and that was the backbone of their army during the Qajar period, early Qajar period. And you've also got the what they call the Sultanati, the Gholaman-e-Shah, which is the cavalry of the Shah. That would be made up of I believe the French military advisors and Russian travelers referred to them as cuirassiers. They had a force of the Shah had a force of 20,000 heavily armored lancers, cavalry with lance, bow, scimitar, and pistols. And these guys were the cuirassiers, I guess you could call it, of the army. They're also referred to by the Persians themselves by the term Qizilbashes. And the Qizilbash is kind of a reference to an earlier time period, the Safavid, Afsharid, Zand periods of the different dynasties in Persia, where the Qizilbash were a sort of a religious military warrior brotherhood of tribes, confederation of tribes that were fanatic, ferocious fighters, and basically during the Safavid era, for instance, they would be known to launch a pretty furious charge at the outset of a battle and just overthrow, just ride down their opponents. The Ottomans have a fantastic military, a very formidable military, and at the time, back during the Safavid period and Afsharid period, and the Ottomans, who had their own mighty cavalry force, great numbers of cavalry, Mamluks and Sipahis and Yorks and Delhis and what have you. They basically said, "Nah, we're not doing this head to head with the Persian cavalry. We're just going to go ahead and set up." They basically more or less resorted to fortified lines of cannons, Janissary regiments, ortas with musketeers, arquebusiers, and cannons, and said, "We're just going to go ahead and deal with this with entrenchments and firepower." That was actually the strength of the Persian cavalry. The Persian cavalry pretty much is, even though the times had progressed and you moved into the Qajar period in the early 19th century, you still had the Persian cavalry was overwhelming, and the tribal cavalry was not like normally when you hear tribal cavalry or tribal levies, you kind of get maybe a negative impression that they're levies, they're militia. These guys were highly motivated, ferocious. Many of them were members were still part of the Qizilbash Confederation, this religious military brotherhood. The tribal cavalry, irregular tribal cavalry, there were tens of thousands at a time could be called up. For instance, the Qajar tribe alone, which is the tribe from where the ruling dynasty had taken its origins in, they could field. They were according to French and Russian military estimates at the time, they could field 40,000 irregular cavalry, 40,000, basically just from their tribe, not counting any of the other tribes in the Persian kingdom. So we're talking gigantic numbers. At one point, they were estimating they could field 150,000 irregular cavalry. And that doesn't count the 20,000 armored cavalry of the Shah's cuirassiers, the Joushan-pashan is what they were called, the armored cavalry. And that doesn't count the Ghulam cavalry, which are the professional mercenaries, Georgians, Armenians, Kurds, and such, that were the professional backbone of the Shah's bodyguard. In addition to the 20,000 armored Joushan-pashan Joushan-pashan had also he had 4,000 Gholaman-e-Shah, which were the Gholam were the again the professional mercenary cavalry, very good, very feared by both the enemies of the Persians and by the Persian civilian populace. So they had a pretty ferocious temperament, and their reputation preceded them. So looking at the army itself, you can see I've got it broken down to two cavalry wings and a infantry element in the center. The cavalry wings, the first two waves are tribal cavalry from the various tribes and tribal confederations, and the third line would be heavy cavalry, the professionals, and we've also got a small regiment. I've got a small regiment of Nizam-Atli. The Nizam-Atli were the New Order European trained from the European military missions, European trained regulars. They had a small regiment of lancers under the Crown Prince of Azerbaijan, Abbas Mirza. And Abbas Mirza was basically not just the Crown Prince of Persia, but he was also the governor of Azerbaijan, the northernmost province in the Caucasus that was also sort of on the front lines of conflict with Russia, and there are conflicts there. So Crown Prince Abbas Mirza was tasked with military reforms. The army had fallen behind in technology and firepower behind the Europeans and modern drill and training. And so Abbas Mirza instituted reforms. The Persians, for instance, had Zamburakchi camel guns, thousands of them, and they had no problem deploying hundreds at a time during a battle. These camel guns, they declined in importance after the Napoleonic era, but they were still a force to be reckoned with. But Abbas Mirza was trying to reform his artillery branch. They didn't want to buy guns from foreign powers. They wanted to produce their own. So he had the French and later British military missions to Persia go ahead and set up a cannon foundry and a gunpowder factory in Tabriz, in his province, and they wanted to go ahead and produce their own. They were also not unlike the Ottomans, who really I wouldn't say they focused on, but they certainly had a large number of larger caliber artillery pieces and bombards and whatnot. The Persians wanted mobile artillery, and so they were trying to replace their Zamburakchi camel guns, their camel artillery, with a mobile horse artillery units. And again, they didn't want to buy other people's guns; they wanted to produce their own. And so, that was one of the many reforms he undertook. He also instituted the training of European trained regulars that could hold their own against their Russian and possibly Austrian and whatever European foes they might have to run into. And these were referred to as Sarbaz, one who would sacrifice his head. And these Sarbaz Regulars became the nucleus of the sort of a new model army for the Persians. They had a very good reputation, very solid. They would hold their own in battle against other forces. And the Ottomans had tried. They also called them Nizam-e-Jadid, which is closely resembles the Nizam-e-Jadid of the Ottoman Empire. However, the Ottomans, due to political intrigue and machinations, the Janissaries in about 1807, I believe, massacred the new New Order infantry of the Ottoman army. It didn't get reinstituted really until the 1820s. So they were at a loss against the Persians, who not only kept but increased their Nizam regulars, which I'll refer to them as Sarbaz from now on. But the Sarbaz regulars, you can see here in the front line of the infantry. In front of them, you see camel guns. These are the Zamburakchis. The Persians made much use of them, even through the Napoleonic era. And You can see here that the Sarbaz Regular regiments in the front row here, I've got them divided up into, there's 4 divisions of Sarbaz. Each regiment has its own unique uniform color. And I've got the relatively little artillery, field artillery compared to, like, say, the Ottomans of the time. But they had many camel guns, and they would field them with their artillery. And volley bayonet, a camel gun, basically a Zamburak or a Zamburakchi, which is Persian for wasp. I guess that's an appropriate name. The Zamburak camel guns, you've got them right here, and I've got some attached to the in the front of my cavalry wings too. You'll see all across the front line the camel artillery. The Zamburaks, they fired basically fired a 1 pound to 2 pound shot, which doesn't sound like much, but when 400 or 500 or 1,000 camel guns roll up behind an infantry line, the infantry pulls back, or the cavalry straight in front pulls aside, and you get hit with a hail of several thousand 1 to 2 pound shot coming into your ranks. You're probably going to feel it, and it's probably not going to feel good. So it was pretty effective, and the Qajar Dynasty kept use of the Zamburak all the way into the at least the Anglo-Persian War of the 1857 and beyond. So I would not say they were ineffective. They might have been, but at the same time, Crown Prince Abbas Mirza was instituting his reforms, building the Persians are building their own horse artillery, and so they were, of course, trying to go ahead and catch up with the technology of the day, their European counterparts. Anyway, here's the front rank of the regular infantry, the European trained Sarbaz Regulars. And you can see the flags. There's some variation of the flags, and I did that purposefully because, first, nobody makes Qajar Persian military flags to even print. I went ahead and just decided to make them. And studying it, it looks like they actually had a sort of a varied appearance because that was left up to the commanders of the regiments or the proprietors, the governors of those provinces where the regiments were raised. How exactly the color, the variety of color of the flags. Generally, the infantry flags were red. Most cavalry flags were blue during the Qajar Dynasty period. And over here, you've got a line of, in front of them is a line of skirmishers, combination of Sarbaz Regulars that have been relegated to light infantry duty, skirmishing duty. Each of these represents a 500-man detachment. And you'll see some have bipods or stands or rests for their guns. Those would be Jazayerchi. And the Jazayerchi would have basically there's an older type of soldier. It was not one of the Nizam or Sarbaz, but Jazayerchi were specialized soldiers that fired a Jazel, and hence Jazayerchi. And the Jazel is a long-barreled musket, very extremely heavy. Required to stand or rest to go ahead and operate and fire, but they were well known as they had a solid reputation, sort of sharpshooters, you would say, and skirmishers, and so they were utilized throughout this period. The regiment in red on the left here is the Bodyguard regiment. These are Russian deserters, Russian mercenaries, I guess you could call them, and they had a very ferocious reputation. They fought well in every battle that they were employed in, and they were loyal to the Crown Prince of Azerbaijan and to Shah Fath Ali Shah, and so the Qajar government valued them and took care of them subsequently. So, kind of an interesting side take with the having their own Russian guard units, sort of. It operated kind of like a guard unit. Wouldn't say it was officially guard, but that's kind of what they were. Looking over here at the tribal cavalry, just kind of a quick look at them. You got these are all members. Each group of cavalry, each cavalry contingent here is from a different tribe. You have this, for instance, is the Qajar tribe, from which the ruling dynasty, of course, is from, and it's a Turkic tribe in northern Persia, the Azerbaijan region. And all of these units are from various clans. This would be the clan levies from this particular tribe or tribal confederation. Here is another group. This is kind of an interesting group. This group is basically made up of various smaller tribal contingents of Kurds, Armenians, Arab tribes from southern Persia, and it's kind of an interesting mix right here. They're all kind of some Dagestanis are in there, and Armenians. They basically have been put together into like one contingent, and I believe they're all under the commander there. Khan, who's Chirag Khan Zingare. And looking beyond them, more contingents of tribal cavalry. There are Afshars, Kashkai. Here are the large tribe of Bakhtiars. Bakhtiar tribe was pretty important supporters of the Qajar government. And you have Afshars. And beyond this is the third line is the heavy cavalry, and that would be basically the. You can see that there, but that is basically referred to as Joushan-pashan, or the armored cavalry, or the also known as Qizilbashs. So the cuirassier, more or less, of the army, and you've got one contingent per wing of cavalry. You'll see over here another contingent of the armored cavalry behind two lines of tribal cavalry. Pretty cool. We got camel guns in the front. And here we have Shahsavan, the Shahsavan tribal contingent. Here you have Turkmen from the various Turkmen tribes that are allied to the Qajar, that are part of the army. Here behind them you have tribes from they're called the Savarani-Khorasan. The Savarani-Khorasan are basically from the Eastern Persian domains, which you would now call part of Afghanistan. Here you have Durrani tribesmen, Hazaras, Tajiks, Uzbeks, and other tribal contingents are all here under their Khan. Basically, this whole detachment is the Savarani-Khorasan. Behind them, we have the other contingent of heavy cavalry, the Joushan-pashan, as you call it, but more armored cuirassier, lancer type heavy cavalry. And here we have another contingent of, I believe they're Afshar, or no, Kashkai cavalry, another tribal contingent. So Kashkai, Turkmen, Afghans, Shahsavans, all these important tribes and tribal confederations contributed to this to the army. Highly motivated irregular cavalry. Here we've got the second line behind the Sarbaz Regulars. These are Tufengchi musketeers. You've got 4 divisions of them. Every 3 brigade stands as basically a division. And these gentlemen are provincial infantry. The governors recruited by the governors of the provinces. These are sort of old order, if you want to call them that, musketeers. You can see some variety in uniforms. The gentlemen here with the red and white caps are older, wearing the older style, almost a Safavid to Afshari era musketeer Tufengchi uniform. Here we've got the next regiment is more variety. The next 2 actually brigades, more variety in colors and uniform. You can tell basically from the uniforms, the quality of them, whether or not they were a well-equipped regiment for their area that they were raised from the province that they're from. You also see from the men wearing the black, tall black caps, with or without the red felt cloth. Those basically are called a kola. It's a lambskin cap. It's a very traditional Qajar cap. It was adopted by a lot of the contingents of the army during the Qajar period, Fatih Ali Shah's reign. And got another division, another division of Tufengchi musketeers. Here you've got the regiment in purple. Purple and green is fairly well equipped, well uniformed comparatively. You've got an older style Safavid style musketeer regiment next to them, and here another well equipped, and well accoutred, uniformed musketeer regiment. Here you've got again showing the variety of different uniforms. Basically showing the varying levels of uniforming and equipping that these, depending on what province they came from and how well they were supported by their governors. Okay, here's another, and then we're back over to the cavalry. And moving along to the final, you've got the final line of infantry. You've got several divisions of militia. When I say militia, there's tribal. It's a combination of tribal levies, frontier infantry. You can see that here. And let's try to get a closer look here for you. And there's, so you can kind of see the difference. The tribal levies. These are from. You've got Kurdish infantry here, Turkmen frontier infantry. You've got infantry from Khorasan province, from Herat, from the eastern provinces. You've got more levies here looks like from the south and southern western border areas. You also have more Afghan, almost Afghan style, I guess you would call it, the tribal infantry levies from from the eastern provinces. Okay. Here you've got on the left. You've got another looks like a Kurdish regiment with some more levies and tribal infantry from the east, and then you've also got a regiment of Circassians from the Caucasus. And behind them, you're going to see the armored cavalry bodyguard of the Shah. Hope the camera's not working itself around too much. But here you've got the Sultanate-e-Shah along with the Gholaman-e-Shah cavalry. And these are the heavily armed guard cavalry regiments of the Shah. You've got the Shah's guard artillery in the back here in reserve. And on the large stand in front of the elephant is the man himself, the king, Fath Ali Shah Qajar. And his elephant is a non-combat elephant. That is just an elephant that was gifted to him. It was part of the Shah's menagerie of animals in Tehran. It was gifted to him by an Indian monarch, and one of several that he had. And while it wasn't a combat elephant by any means, my wife loves elephants, and I promised her I would go ahead and paint one up for this army, and there it is. So there you go, honey. All right, and here's the final unit of Gholaman-e-Shah, which is the golem of the Shah, the guard, their cavalry of the Shah, is what these guys are, and that's the other contingent of guard cavalry. So you have Gholaman-e-Shah here, and then you have the sort of the Qizilbash, Shah's Qizilbash guard here, and more Gholaman cavalry. Those are Gholaman or Ghulam cavalry, which are the mercenary cavalry, professional mercenaries that are combined from the various provinces. And so these three would be more or less the cavalry reserve of the army behind the reserve. And then you have the actual immediate reserves of the heavy contingents of both wings, the cuirassier type Joushan-pashan cavalry, the armored cavalry, and then you have gigantic waves of irregular light cavalry, highly motivated. And that pretty much sums up the army as far as the actual its capabilities. I have no idea why. I don't know anybody else that has built a Qajar Persian army. I think it's fantastic. If you like Ottomans, you'll love the Persians. And my Ottomans and Persians are going to be facing each other on a battlefield tabletop here as soon as I can arrange it. Right now, I've got my gaming buddies are already a little bit queasy about the Ottomans that I've been fielding. And so if they don't like the Ottomans, they're really not going to like these guys. Because these guys are the ones that the Ottomans are like, yeah, we're not going to go head-to-head in a cavalry battle with you. We're just going to go and line up behind trenches and rake you with artillery and musket and arquebus fire and basically hope you just go away. So, yeah, very ferocious, huge numbers of cavalry, large numbers of hundreds and hundreds of camel gun artillery pieces blasting away at you. The infantry... there's some actions where they've been known basically to one of their tactics was to move up as if they're going to engage in a firefight with you, which for the Ottomans or the Russians is, that's wonderful. They're trained for that. And so they fired a volley. Their foes would fire a volley. And as soon as the foes started to reload for the next volley, they would look up and the Persians were on top of them. The Persians have been known to fire one volley, drop their muskets, discard them, whip out their scimitars, and run screaming into the enemy. And they're also known for not unknown for the Persians to use their large cavalry numbers to make flanking maneuvers to try to crush in one of the enemy flanks, turn the line, and then roll them up. So these are all running up cavalry or infantry screens, and behind them were lines of hundreds of Zamburakchi camel guns waiting to blast you. And as soon as that created some kind of chaos, confusion, and casualties, then the Persians would charge in. So I think it's a great army. It's really fun. I had a lot of fun painting it up. Really colorful. I like all the different colors for the different regiments. It's really something to see. And as you can see, I started out with just a few. I was going to paint just a few units and have an enemy for the Ottomans and the Russians to play with. And now I've got this gigantic army again. I've done it again. So did this with the Ottomans, done it with the Persians. And so at this point, I think I'm ready to go ahead and take these guys to a game table. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this. If you have any questions, just hit me up, let me know. And thanks for watching. And if you watched this the whole way through, appreciate it.